Hello, today I will be going over the Rita Blanca National Grassland uh, conservation. Our conservation effort is to protect the native bison species. I did this with Cody Johnson, Shelby Wilson, Colton Hash, and me, of course. I uh, I'm going over just the title slide just for an introduction, but my slides are it'll be the conservation objectives and actions. So the direct threats that I found that interrupted the bison's native movements and stuff were habitat loss and conversion, overgrazing, off-road vehicle use, invasive plant species, and wind erosion. Some actions that I took to prevent this was uh, protecting and restoring native grassland habitats. That'll help with the habitat loss and conversion. Some ways I did this was I went to some ways I would do this would be towards local ranchers to help buy the property so it wouldn't get turned into agriculture. And then for overgrazing, I would for the overgrazing direct threat, I would use a managing grazing pressure by rotational grazing so that the same patch of land wasn't overgrazed so that the cows and the bison weren't competing for a food source. And for the off-road vehicle use, I would just install more signage as well as block off certain areas of the place that so people can't go through and then cause unwanted roadways that can interrupt bison as well as just their native traveling. Um, for the invasive plant species, I would use a manual removal as well as a reseeding project after the removal of the invasive species. But some given drawbacks are that if the invasive species gets reintroduced, it would need more management as well as fundraising or funding to get rid of that. So it'd have to be monitored all the time, as well as to measure the direct threat of the invasive species. And then for the last one is reducing wind erosion. This is kind of low on the list because it doesn't really impact short prairie grasslands. I mean, it does somewhat, but it's just the least of the concerns. The most would be the habitat loss and the conversion into agriculture. But for the reduction of wind erosion, I would just plant more. So with the reseeding effort, I would plant more on bare soil so that the wind wouldn't lift the soil up and cause massive dust storms. But like I said, with the downside of this one, it would be that it would disrupt the native habitat because if you do a reseeding project and then you put all that down, it would just interrupt the natural flow of the land. I emphasize this in the statement here and here. These strategies include habitat restoration, that's for the habitat loss and conversion, rotating grazing, that's one for overgrazing, access restrictions, that's for the off road vehicle use, and vegetation management, that's for invasive species, and then the wind erosion. While all this is effective, there are going to be some cons to this. So, right here, while effective, these actions may involve trade offs such as economic impact on ranchers. That's for that overgrading one, overgrazing, public resistance. That could be for the invasive species, or no, that could be for the off road vehicle use. And then ongoing maintenance needs. That's for the reseeding project for the invasive native plant or invasive plant species. Sorry. And then with just the overall goal is to improve habitat quality and support a sustainable, free-ranging bison population. And then this has been my slide over conservation objectives and actions. My next one is just the key takeaways for the closing takeaways. Some closing takeaways that I have, I can read them off here, is restoring bison to Rita Blanca can improve ecosystem health and biodiversity. Major threats include habitat. I went over these on this last one, so I'm going to skip this one. But this targeted conservation actions can reduce these threats and support a long-term success. Management requires balancing ecological goals with economics and social impacts. That's what I was talking about with the reseeding project. We just constantly have to be monitoring it as well. And long term monitoring is essential to ensure a sustainable, genetic viable bison population. As well as this has been my recording of the closing takeaways. I can go over the references as well. That's just the next slide. I had a part in that one as well. So these are just some of the references that we use: the hands-on conservation bison handling, in the American prairie, and then these were just some of the other topics we had, like the plant species and brief history of the native grasslands, reintroducing bison and results in long running and resilience, increasing grassland diversity. That was one of our goals, was just to improve genetic diversity as well as promote agriculture health, and that was emphasized. I think it was, yes, that was just me emphasizing those major threats like habitat loss, overgrazing, and more. All right, thank you.